And we're back. Here with Mark Smith. And Mark, you were just talking about all order book, the streaming trades, but you mentioned RFQs. To use the order book in the spot market, nowadays we're talking with a prime broker involved. We've seen some buy-side firms which used to be happy users of LavFX and others move away from that because sometimes the prime brokers had their own credit issues themselves, and they've been going more toward RFQs. That would be for the people who have a real, I can call it an operational hangover. They can't process all these trades. They don't want to deal with a prime broker. They're willing to give up their name. That has a different mentality. One is, first off, there is the disclosed versus undisclosed angle. Do you want to talk about, you also touched on STPs, and how they can give better prices or very aggressive prices to that disclosed buyer and the quality of the buying as opposed to, can you go into what you think is the market for ECNs on a disclosed versus undisclosed basis? What did you do? Why did you do it?
Sure. First of all, I'll probably surprise you to say that that I'm not one of those guys who has a kind of religious zealousy over this model versus that model. I think the FX market is flexible in that actors are doing different things for their own rational self-interest, and so different types of execution vehicles are going to be appropriate for different type of participants in the market. We went into the central limit order book world on an undisclosed basis because that's just what we knew. We came from the equities world, and anonymity was very important. There was so much abuse from the market makers that the SEC really wanted that kind of anonymity to be out there and available. So we brought that model into the world of FX. And FX has been a very, I would call, cautiously suspicious market for a very long time. There's a belief that there's always someone out there looking at order flow, and if they notice any kind of particular movements or see names that are doing something, that they'll try to front run you. And by front running you, you'll get worse pricing, and that will have a negative effect on your overall performance. I think that used to happen a lot. I don't think it happens as much as it used to.
Except for in fixing periods.
Yeah.
And,
well,
that, by the way, I think is for very legitimate reasons. If you're dumping the risk off to somebody else for 4 o'clock, they got to be able to protect themselves.
That's right, and it's interesting that scandal sort of is starting to show itself, and that's anytime you have any kind of vehicle like that, it's bound to happen. I'm not surprised whatsoever of that news. So, but from a disclosed and undisclosed basis, when we first got into the market, it was very important to be undisclosed for a lot of different reasons. A lot of the early adopters didn't want banks to know that they were early adopters because they were still doing business in other ways, and they thought they might be punished for being early adopters into this new order book model, because there was a lot of blood on the streets when we first started pushing this model forward. There were a lot of people who were very unhappy about it, and there were a lot of big players who were very nervous that their relationships might be damaged by being seen as a big player in some of these early execution pools, ECNs. I believed later on in the evolution of LAVA that there was a lot of value to disclosed trading. A lot of the bad actors that the banks viewed as bad actors were causing the whole liquidity pool itself to be less valuable because the banks had to protect themselves, and so therefore they weren't willing to give their sort of A prices, and that's really what it sort of boiled down to. Banks had A, B, C, D kind of customers, and they knew they would stream an A price to this type of customer, a B price to this type, or pool of liquidity, as it were.
Let's slow down there for just 1 second. So to reiterate, if it is a disclosed name, you're Deutsche Bank, you're making markets, you may have a price up here for that fine pension plan or mutual fund. You might have a price that's not as good where you put in more spread for a small guy or infrequent trader. You might have a worse price for someone who is anonymous, hiding behind a prime broker. You've got no idea of their intentions. Whether or not that might be the same guy who's really good, but you will tier your prices, and those come out as different offerings. And as an ECN, if you allow, if it is the disclosed name, you're telling who the counterparty is, they give you the feed whenever you see party A, he'll be an A price, party B will be a B price. That is an accurate summation.
Yep, that's very accurate. So, and that's
Now
it's one of those.
that argument would imply that one will never do worse in a disclosed market than an undisclosed market, and that might be a reason why single dealer platforms are so popular. You know,
I think that's one of the reasons why they're making a big comeback, and part of that is the technology's gotten better. So when ECNs first came on the scene and we first built Lava, we were very, very forward with our technology. You know, we used a lot of the equity technology, and our systems, everybody agreed, were the best of breed and way better than what the banks could provide themselves. So some of the reason why in the early days a customer would come to like Lava is for the technology, because they are sophisticated technology, we had sophisticated technology, and it was a way for them to get to the prices better than if they went straight to the bank, because the bank either couldn't support a direct API or their single dealer platform really didn't provide them the type of response that they were looking for. And a lot of single dealer platforms at the beginning were completely RFQ, and the guys, people wanted newer streaming prices or bids and offers.
so they could themselves do algorithms, their own algorithms, for instance.
That's correct, and also be able to find different ways to move larger block orders through the system over the course of time and not be seen. And again, the anonymity, you know, let's say I lost a pip on the price, but I believe because I was anonymous, I saved myself 10 pips on the other side because I wasn't front row. So they do that math in their head and say, okay, well, then we'd rather go here and give up the pip on the execution versus what the long-term bigger price could potentially be. As single dealer platforms have gotten better, as technology has really started to find its way on, from the banks down to the buy side, a lot of people have gone back to those single dealer platforms because they can get better pricing, they can maintain that relationship, that direct one-to-one relationship with the bank, which can give them value in other places. And they can get some additional goodies that maybe they wouldn't get from the venue. So you have seen some of the people go back to single dealer platforms. I think there's a place in the market for disclosed trading, and there's a place in the market for anonymous trading. And if you look, one of my former companies, Trader Tools, has brought to the market a very successful product called BuysideFX. So in this world of dark pools and anonymity, they brought a completely disclosed aggregator to the market, and have done extremely well with it, and done some really good trade cost analysis and pricing analysis and things for customers, and found that the majority of the time in the major currencies you're getting competitive pricing and potentially even better pricing on a disclosed basis.
This has been terrific. I can already tell that we're going to break this up into 4 parts. So thank you for part 2. We're here with Mark Smith, and come on back for part 3, where we're going to talk about some of the brave new world of best practices in ECNs as just set out by Gil Mendelzis, formerly of Triana and now from EBS. Thanks again.